Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about the difference between having a medical billing and coding diploma versus a certification from one of the national major medical coding associations. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Every week I seem to be getting this question more and more. Blue, I'm about to finish my medical billing and coding program and I'm going to get a diploma. Is this enough to get a job in medical coding? Yes and no. Yes, because sometimes employers, you may get lucky and an employer will hire you with education, but they are going to expect you to have your certification within 6 months or sometimes a year. So that is the stipulation a lot of times for students who end up getting a job before they get their certification. The employer is going to expect that. The reason that they're going to expect that is because they are hiring you with that promise that you are about to get your certification. So that is something to think about when you are out there and you're looking. You also want to consider that you're not going to start out on the highest end of the pay scale when it comes to being a person who has your diploma and no certification just yet. They don't have to pay you what they would pay a certified medical coder because you don't have your credential yet. And that's another thing that you need to think about. Having your certification already in hand is great. And you only have to start with just one, okay? That is my biggest bit of advice. I started with one. I currently have only one. I am a certified coding associate with the American Health Information Management Association currently, okay? So I have a lot of things going on in the background that I'm not bringing to the channel just yet, but I will in due time. One thing at a time. First things first. But I want to talk about that and how important it is, because sometimes when people think that they've completed a program and they have their certificate, that this is enough. It's not enough, guys. You have to get your credentials after your name. And going through AHIMA, the American Health Information Management Association, or the American Academy of Professional Coders, AAPC, is the way to go. There is another association out there I'm not going to mention, because that's not what employers are looking for. Employers are only looking for AHIMA and AAPC credentials. They want these because they know and understand what these coders have gone through and what their tests have been like. And that is the reason that they are often looking for them, okay? And another thing I want to talk about today too is like these schools that are trying to sell these other programs, or they'll say, well, you don't have any experience in medical yet, so we want you to take this other supplemental program or this other program first before you get into the medical coding program. I'm here to tell you guys that you do not have to be experienced in medical at all to get into a medical billing and coding program. I had zero experience before I got into my program. All right, so there are medical billing and coding programs out there that do not have a prerequisite that you have to be in medical already, because the supplemental programs that they are offering to these people are not going to do anything for the person who is looking for a job as a medical coder. So that is something that, you guys should know. Yes, there are other courses that you should have before, which is medical terminology and anatomy and pathophysiology. You should have all of those. AAPC has that separately in their bundles, okay? AAPC, I will give it to you guys. Being certified with the HIMA, I will say this about AAPC that I think is really great. They have a very upfront approach. You go to their websites, and they will hit you with their deals right off the bat. So I think that's really awesome. I also have experienced several times their little pop-up box that says, "How can we help you? How can we help you?" So they are very engaged on that website. That is just something that you all should know. But their medical terminology and anatomy program is separate from their coding program. Okay, so that is something to know. Yes, they do recommend that you take that before, especially if you have no experience in medical. You need to. You have to have a good foundation before you start into the coding side, because it's not going to make sense if you don't understand medical terminology. Your anatomy and pathophysiology. Pathophysiology, understanding how the body works and the disease process. That is so important because a lot of these are part of trying to find the appropriate diagnosis and really understanding what diagnoses to pick up, okay? So that is why these things are important. But if you are experiencing that, there's a program out there, there's a school that says, well, no, you don't have experience in medical, so we want you to take this other thing first. Just know that these schools have to make money. A lot of these schools are for profit, and there's nothing wrong with being for profit. But at the same time, too, you have to consider, do they have your best interests at heart? Or are they trying to get you to spend more money to get through these programs? A lot of times these programs are designed to be sold to you. So they're going to tell you all the great and wonderful, cool things about being a medical coder. And oh, it's so easy because there's these things called an encoder that's going to make your life so much easier as a medical coder. You just put in a few words and a code will pop up and then voila, you're done. No, my friends. No. No. What happens is you have to really understand and know the rules, and you have to know the coding guidelines, and you have to understand what to do when you're coding, and you have to understand how to interpret the documentation. There's a huge difference in that. And so because of that, that's why I always recommend that you do shop around. But if you are going to go to any of these online schools, both associations offer online medical coding programs. AAPC has their online medical coding program, and so does AHIMA. And both of them, they train for their association credentials. There is 2 credentials that you can sit for that you do not have to go through any formal training. You can have previous background experience, or you can study independently on your own. And I will include a link for the step-by-step sequence that I did. And this is to help you if you want to study independently. I list all of the books that you need along with all the workbooks that you need. All right. So the 2 are the CCA, the Certified Coding Associate, and that is offered with the American Health Information Management Association. And there's the CPC, which is offered with AAPC, the American Academy of Professional Coders. Both of these do not require any formal education when it comes to medical coding. So if you wanted to study independently, you could totally sit for one of those credentials. I will say this though, AAPC does require you to be a member of their association before you pay to take any of their certification exams. That's just an added cost, just so you guys know. There's nothing wrong with it. That is just their policy, all right? AHIMA does not require this, all right? So there is differences between the 2. I invite you guys to check out the websites, get familiar with the customer service, because if you're going to be giving your hard-earned money to them, then you should know what you're getting for your dollar. There is programs out there also that will help you if you are in a low-paying job, if you have been laid off. There's funds for a lot of people out there. You just have to know where to look. I went through the workforce agency. I call it the unemployment office, but it is a workforce agency. I went through a program called the WIOA, and it is still out there. It's the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And they paid for my entire school. They also paid for part of my certification exam, and I had to pay for part of it. But for what I paid was nothing compared to this wonderful career that I now have, that I love to share with everybody because I really love it. And there's a lot of self-serving information out there, guys. That's something that you should know with these schools too. There's a lot of self-serving information out there. So you have to know, and you have to be on guard and ask the questions, because it is your money at the end of the day. It's your name on that dotted line. And you have to be able to get the most out of it that you possibly can. And just simply getting a diploma, and if they're telling you that's sufficient enough to get a job, no, guys, you need your certification, okay? And it is possible but you have to know what you're doing, and you have to make sure that you are studying, and studying more than you ever have in your whole life. Because it's just temporary, the study part, right? And I have many study tip videos that talk about like the medical terminology and anatomy and pathophysiology. I have a lot of those. Not necessarily pathophysiology broken down by itself, but I do talk about anatomy. There's a lot of them, and it's not just my channel. There's a lot of medical channels out there for the medical field. Like there's a lot of nursing ones that are really good. I've noticed there are so many. I can't list them. But if you do a simple search in YouTube, you can come across a lot of different medical terminology videos or anatomy videos. And watching surgeries also helps. Even if you are still beginning your journey into medical coding, watching the surgeries and learning and listening to what's happening in these surgeries is going to go a long way into helping you when you do get into the field of medical coding. So that's something to know. But yes, study for your certification exam and get that, and make sure it is with AHIMA or AAPC. If it is not with one of these associations, guys, you're wasting your time. I'm going to be very blunt, okay? You're wasting your time if it is not with AHIMA or AAPC. It has got to be with one of them. And all you need is just one to start, okay? A lot of times people will want to tack on a bunch of different credentials. It's fine if you've had experience. If you've had experience to back up those additional credentials, that's great. If those additional credentials is not a duplication of what you already have, okay? Because there's that too. You want to make sure that it is something that is new, and it is something that is going to add value to your name, but that comes with experience and time, right? So I have known many coders who have gone their entire careers with just one credential and have been supremely successful with just one credential. So that is something to think about as well. You don't have to spend a ton of money trying to get in with a bunch of different credentials, because remember, you have to keep up those credentials with continuing education units. And it can get expensive, especially when you start to rack up a lot of credentials after your name. That's why I say you have to make sure that it's really worth it, and you know that you have that, okay? So if you've been in a college program, just make sure that you're studying and that you're preparing yourself for whatever certification you decide to go through, and go from there. But having that on your resume, that you've completed a anatomy program or a medical terminology program, it looks really good as well, because a lot of times in these job listings, employers will ask you to have some formal education. Okay, if you've studied independently, or if you've gone through a program, they're going to ask you, do you have anatomy and medical terminology background? And you really want to make sure that you highlight that, especially if you've gone to a college program and you've spent the money on it. Oh yeah, get that on there. Okay, it's very, very key. And you know, that's what I have to say about that. But yes, keep studying, guys. And make sure that, you know, whenever you get prepared to take your certification exam, that you go in there and you trust what you've learned. You trust that you've studied hard enough, and that if all else fails, you can just take it again. There is nothing wrong with taking it again. And I'm going to repeat that. There is nothing wrong with taking the certification exam again, because there are people who will give up after something happens the first time. If they don't do as well, they will give up. And I'm here to tell you that don't give up, because when you have invested as much time as you're going to invest into this career field, trust me, you're going to want some payoff. And the payoff is when you get your job, when you start to get in the field, and when you start to really dive deep into the world of medical coding. And then maybe one day, you know, you'll be really doing something fantastic, you know, writing a paper or speaking somewhere. You know, there's always those options as well. So medical coding is a wonderful field, but if you're asking me, me in my humble opinion, I am very biased because I do love what I do. And I love it so much that I come home and I talk about it with all of you. So, but I wouldn't have it any other way, guys. To me, this is totally awesome. And I can't believe I didn't think about this before, you know? But here I am on my journey with you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. It's a little short one tonight because I am a little bit later tonight, but I'm here. And so, but I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, close this up. If you have any questions, let me know. Comment below in the comments. Haha, I said it right this time because I normally say, let me know in the description box. In the comments. And so I will see y'all on the next video. If you are a medical coder, a medical coding student, somebody curious about the fascinating world of medical coding, a provider or a nurse, I invite you to like and subscribe and follow me on my journey in medical coding. I will see y'all next time. Bye.